Gonzalez died on the scene. Tragically, her sister witnessed the murder.
I was in shock. I couldn't touch her. I couldn't move. My body froze.
In Spanish, her mother describes the heartbreak of losing her oldest daughter.
The
security camera at a Dallas gas station captured what began as an ordinary May morning in 2023. A young couple walks across the parking lot, their body language tense, animated. 26-year-old Gabriella Gonzalez pushes away 22-year-old Harold Thompson as he attempts to grab her. For a moment, they continue walking side by side, an uneasy calm settling between them. Then, in a flash of movement almost too quick to process, Thompson produces a handgun. Without hesitation, he raises it to Gabriella's head and pulls the trigger. She crumples to the pavement, but Thompson isn't finished. He stands over her fallen body, firing multiple additional shots before calmly walking away, leaving behind the mother of 3 children in a growing pool of blood. The most chilling detail? This wasn't a random act of violence. Thompson had a specific motive. Gabriella had just returned from Colorado, where she had traveled to obtain an abortion that Texas law wouldn't allow. Gabriella Gonzalez wasn't just another statistic. She was a devoted mother of 3 young children who described her as loving, kind-hearted, and fiercely protective. At 26, she balanced the demands of motherhood while navigating a relationship that had grown increasingly volatile. Friends recall her warm smile and how she would go out of her way to help others, even when struggling herself. Her family remembers her determination to create a better life for her children, working multiple jobs at times to make ends meet. Now, those 3 children face a future without their mother's embrace, all because she made a deeply personal healthcare decision. What makes this case particularly disturbing goes beyond the brutal execution captured on camera. Thompson had already been flagged in the system for domestic violence. A warrant for his arrest had been issued before the murder, but never acted upon. Gabriella's family had reported his abuse, yet they received no meaningful response from authorities. The murder occurred just 1 day after Gabriella returned from Colorado, where she had traveled hundreds of miles to access health care that Texas's restrictive abortion laws denied her. This case sits at the devastating intersection of America's gun violence epidemic, domestic abuse crisis, and reproductive rights battleground. It exposes critical failures in our systems designed to protect vulnerable individuals. Perhaps most heartbreaking is the predictability of this tragedy. The red flags were numerous and glaring. Thompson's rage at losing control over Gabriella's body culminated in the ultimate act of control, taking her life in broad daylight, with such callousness that it suggests he felt entitled to this violence. I need you to stay with me through this entire story, because understanding what happened to Gabriella could literally save lives. As we unpack the events leading to this tragedy, ask yourself, how many warning signs were missed? What systems failed her? And most importantly, could someone you know be in similar danger right now? If you've ever wondered what domestic violence really looks like before it turns deadly, this is it. By the end of this video, you'll recognize the warning signs that everyone around Gabriella missed. Hit that subscribe button now, because the knowledge you gain today might help you protect someone tomorrow. Before she became a headline, Gabriella Gonzalez was simply trying to build a stable life for her 3 children in Dallas, Texas. Born in the late 1990s, she embraced motherhood young, with her oldest child still in elementary school at the time of her death. Despite financial struggles common to many single parents, neighbors recall seeing Gabriella walking her children to the nearby park, their laughter cutting through the neighborhood's ambient noise. She worked various jobs to support her family, often taking night shifts that allowed her to be present for school drop-offs and pickups. Her modest apartment was described as warm and inviting, with children's artwork proudly displayed on the refrigerator. According to those who knew her well, Gabriella's children were her world. Every decision she made, including the fateful one to terminate her 4th pregnancy, was filtered through the lens of what would be best for the 3 young lives already depending on her. She dreamed of eventually saving enough to move to a neighborhood with better schools. Gabriella's relationship with Harold Thompson began like many others, with promise and affection that gradually gave way to control and fear. The 22-year-old Thompson believed to be the father of the pregnancy Gabriella terminated, had been in her life for approximately 2 years. Friends noted that his behavior followed a textbook pattern of isolation, initially charming and attentive before slowly cutting Gabriella off from her support network. Text messages recovered from Gabriella's phone revealed Thompson's increasing possessiveness, particularly after discovering her pregnancy. He would demand her whereabouts constantly, show up unannounced at her workplace, and monitor her social media activity. What began as what he called protectiveness evolved into monitoring her movements and finances. Thompson was unemployed for much of their relationship, creating financial dependency as Gabriella often covered his expenses alongside her children's needs. The power imbalance was further complicated by Thompson's threats to report Gabriella's undocumented relatives if she ever tried to leave him. "She was the glue that held us together," Gabriella's younger sister told investigators through tears. Family members described Gabriella as resilient, resourceful, and unfailingly generous, often putting others' needs before her own. Despite dropping out of high school to support her first child, she had recently begun taking online classes toward her GED, hoping to eventually pursue nursing. Her mother recalled Gabriella's artistic talent. She created handmade birthday cards and could make something beautiful out of nothing for her children's school projects. This creativity extended to stretching her limited budget, cooking elaborate meals from simple ingredients to make holidays special for her family. But beneath this strength, her family witnessed her struggle. They described watching helplessly as Thompson's influence grew and Gabriella's confidence diminished. She started speaking softer, checking her phone constantly, making excuses to leave family gatherings early. Her cousin noted, "We knew something was wrong, but she would always say everything was fine." The pregnancy that ultimately led to Gabriella's Colorado trip wasn't the first time Thompson's abuse had escalated during a vulnerable period in her life. Court records revealed a disturbing pattern. Thompson had physically assaulted Gabriella during her previous pregnancy 2 years earlier, resulting in a miscarriage. That incident led to her first attempt to leave him, but she returned after his tearful promises to change and threats against her family. Just 3 months before her murder, neighbors had called police after hearing screaming from their apartment. Officers documented bruising on Gabriella's arms, but she declined to press charges, later telling her sister she feared retaliation. The most serious incident occurred 6 weeks before her death, when Thompson allegedly choked Gabriella until she lost consciousness after discovering she was pregnant again. This assault prompted her to file a report, resulting in the warrant that was never served. Her doctor later noted that this strangulation incident significantly increased her statistical risk of eventually being killed by her abuser. In September 2021, Texas enacted Senate Bill 8, one of the nation's most restrictive abortion laws, banning the procedure after approximately 6 weeks, before many women even realized they're pregnant. For Gabriella, this legislative decision would prove fatal. When she discovered her pregnancy in late April 2023, she was already 8 weeks along, too late for legal abortion in Texas. Text messages to her sister revealed Gabriella's anguish. "I can't have another baby right now. The kids barely have enough as it is." With 3 children already depending on her limited income and an increasingly volatile relationship with Thompson, Gabriella made the difficult decision to seek care elsewhere. She researched options and found a clinic in Colorado, over 700 miles away. This meant arranging childcare, requesting time off work, and scraping together nearly $2,000 for travel, accommodation, and the procedure itself. A friend later told investigators that Gabriella had to pawn her grandmother's jewelry to afford the bus ticket to Denver. When Thompson discovered Gabriella's plans through messages on her phone, his reaction was immediate and terrifying. According to Gabriella's best friend, who received frantic calls during this period, Thompson alternated between rage and manipulation. He'd scream that she was murdering his child 1 minute, then cry and promise to be a better father the next, she recalled. Thompson's controlling behavior intensified dramatically.
And a man in Texas is now accused of killing his girlfriend after she traveled to Colorado to get an abortion. Police say surveillance video from a gas station parking lot showed that suspect pulled out a gun and shot 26-year-old Gabriella Gonzalez. Texas banned abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy, but nearly all abortions have been halted in Texas since Roe v. Wade overturned. The day before that Gabriella was killed, police say she'd returned from Colorado where she got an abortion. Police believe the suspect in the shooting was the father and didn't want her to get that abortion. Gabriella's sister says she was there when that shooting happened.
I just feel anger towards them. And she always told me that she wanted to leave, but that she couldn't.
The suspect is in jail tonight. Gabriella was already a mother to 3 children, and the family is holding a memorial service for her tomorrow.
Most egregiously, her March report of strangulation, which generated the unserved warrant, was assigned to an overwhelmed detective carrying 127 active cases. The Dallas Police Department's own audit, conducted after Gabriella's murder, revealed that domestic violence calls were routinely downgraded in priority to meet performance metrics. One former dispatcher later testified that supervisors instructed staff to classify domestic incidents as disturbances rather than assaults in progress to improve response time statistics. Beyond police failures, other protective systems proved equally ineffective. When Gabriella sought a protective order in February, she encountered a labyrinthine process requiring multiple court appearances, impossible for someone working 2 jobs while caring for 3 children. The court's domestic violence advocate position had been vacant for 4 months due to budget cuts, leaving no one to guide her through the process. The local domestic violence shelter that might have offered Gabriella refuge was operating at 130% capacity, with a waiting list of 27 families. When she called their hotline in April, she was offered safety planning, but no immediate housing. The shelter's director later testified before the city council that they had turned away over 300 women in the previous year due to space limitations. Even Gabriella's healthcare providers missed critical intervention opportunities. Hospital records show she visited the emergency room twice with injuries consistent with abuse, yet no domestic violence screening was documented. The fragmented healthcare system meant these visits to different facilities never triggered a comprehensive safety assessment that might have revealed the escalating danger she faced. Gabriella's case brutally illustrates how reproductive coercion intersects with domestic violence. Texas Senate Bill 8, implemented in September 2021, banned abortions after cardiac activity is detected, typically around 6 weeks. This restriction created what domestic violence experts call a perfect storm for abuse victims. Research published in the Journal of American Medical Association found that pregnancy increases domestic violence risk by 300%, with homicide being the leading cause of death among pregnant women. For Gabriella, Texas law eliminated local options, forcing her to travel hundreds of miles to Colorado, a journey that required financial resources, time away from work, and childcare arrangements. These logistical challenges made her abortion decision visible to her abuser in ways a local, discreet procedure might not have. Text messages recovered from Gabriella's phone reveal Thompson explicitly using the pregnancy to control her. "You're having my baby, whether you like it or not. No one's driving you to kill my kid." When she managed to obtain the abortion despite his threats, Thompson's perceived loss of control triggered the fatal violence, a pattern domestic violence experts identify as particularly dangerous. The director of the Texas Council on Family Violence later testified before the state legislature that Gabriella's case exemplified how abortion restrictions can become weapons in an abuser's arsenal. She explained that forcing women to maintain unwanted pregnancies creates permanent biological connections to abusers, making escape more difficult and dangerous. In the year following Texas's abortion restrictions, domestic violence homicides involving pregnant victims increased by 22%, a statistic in which Gabriella became tragically included. She danced in the kitchen while making pancakes, Gabriella's mother recalls, her voice breaking during the memorial service held 2 weeks after the murder. Even when times were hard, she found ways to make her children laugh. The family's memories paint a portrait of a young woman whose life amounted to far more than its violent end. Her brother remembers how Gabriella taught herself to braid hair by watching YouTube videos so her daughter could have fancy styles like the other girls at school. At the candlelight vigil held on what would have been her 27th birthday, Gabriella's oldest child, just 9 years old, read a poem he had written. My mom had magic hands that could fix anything broken. The children now live with Gabriella's sister, who has transformed her small apartment to accommodate them. On the living room wall hangs Gabriella's unfinished painting, a sunset over water that she had been working on between shifts. Her sister has vowed to preserve it exactly as Gabriella left it, brushstrokes frozen in time, like her interrupted life. The response to Gabriella's murder transcended her immediate circle, galvanizing a community often numbed by violent statistics. Within days, a GoFundMe campaign for her children exceeded its $30,000 goal, with donations coming from all 50 states. Local businesses contributed too. A furniture store delivered new beds for the children, while a dental office offered free care. More remarkably, Gabriella's story sparked concrete action. The West Oak Cliff Neighborhood Association established the Gonzalez Safety Network, providing emergency transportation and temporary housing for domestic violence victims. 3 local attorneys now offer pro bono services for protective orders, naming their initiative Gabriella's Guardians. Perhaps most moving was the response from strangers touched by her story. On the 1-month anniversary of her death, over 500 people, most of whom never met Gabriella, formed a human chain around the Dallas Family Justice Center, demanding expanded services and accountability. Inside the center now stands a mural depicting butterflies rising from broken chains, with Gabriella's favorite saying, "Today is a new chance to be brave." Gabriella Gonzalez never sought to be a symbol or catalyst for change. She was a mother trying to make difficult choices in impossible circumstances. Yet her story has become a powerful testament to the deadly consequences of intersecting failures in domestic violence response, reproductive health care access, and community protection systems. Her name is now invoked in legislative hearings and policy debates across Texas. Advocates fighting for domestic violence resources and reproductive rights alike share her story as evidence of what's at stake. While nothing can return Gabriella to her children, her legacy lives on in strengthened protections for other women facing similar dangers. As her sister said simply, through her death, she is still saving lives. Gabriella Gonzalez's murder represents a perfect storm of systemic failures. A domestic violence victim with documented abuse reports, an unserved warrant that might have removed her abuser from the streets, restrictive abortion laws that forced her to travel hundreds of miles for health care. Each of these factors alone creates danger. Together, they proved fatal. The lessons from this tragedy are painfully clear. First, domestic violence escalates predictably, with strangulation being a critical warning sign of potential homicide. Second, our systems designed to protect victims are chronically underfunded and overwhelmed, creating dangerous gaps in the safety net. Third, reproductive coercion is a powerful tool for abusers, and restricting abortion access can trap victims in dangerous relationships.
I just feel anger towards them.